At some point in your career, you probably had a moment where you realized the way you led wasn't working anymore. Perhaps something changed. Market conditions have changed. Customer requirements have changed. And maybe your team is getting bigger. If you keep leading the same way, it's not going to scale. Bill Joyner spent decades learning why some leaders thrive when things get complex, and others, often the most talented ones, quietly fall behind. It comes down to 5 levels, and 80% of leaders are stuck at the bottom 2 without realizing it. In this video, I'm going to show you what each level looks like at an organizational scale. Get personal with real-life stories where I've seen this happen, and then show you how to spot yourself by sharing a survey that you can use to identify your leadership level. What a leadership coach would do for you if you were to hire one. And if you cannot hire one, how can I help become that thought partner and coach? Hi, my name is Anil Jaisingh. I'm a certified Scrum trainer with Scrum Alliance, a product leader with a thriving training and consulting company, Concepts and Beyond, and an adjunct professor at the NYU Graduate School of Project Management, where I teach leadership to graduate students. 45% of leaders are experts. Steve Ballmer from Microsoft is the textbook case. Steve was sharp, driven, relentless. He ran one of the most profitable companies in the world. But the culture he built stacked employees against each other instead of against the competition. Every team was its own silo. Collaboration between teams was a weakness, because internally, the incentive was to win against your colleagues, not the market. When conditions changed and mobile phones exploded, Microsoft had the technology. They had the people. What they did not have was to bring it all together, because the whole organization was structured around information flowing up the chain instead of across the organization. I have seen this exact thing work in organizations I worked. The culture built around following the leader. Individual opinions almost always got squashed. Our managing director was a guy named Derek. Derek had built his entire career on his own expertise and hiring people that were very similar to him. He was sharp, technical, and he had hired several expert level leaders underneath him. Here's what Derek actually did when a team member struggled with something hard. He personally sat down with them, dug into the problem, sometimes opened up the code himself and started debugging line by line. And this behavior was rewarded, not tolerated, but rewarded. That's expert level leadership. You're an expert if meetings feel like this. Someone brings you a problem and your first instinct is to solve it yourself, out loud, immediately. You interrupt people mid-sentence. You're not really rude, but you can't physically sit there with someone being wrong when you already see the answer. Imagine this idea that your team stopped bringing you problems and instead started bringing you decisions they had already made. Would that feel like relief, or would it feel like you have been replaced? The smarter you are, the more natural that level feels. And the more natural it feels, the harder it is to see what it's costing you. Now imagine Derek had a leadership coach. A coach wouldn't tell Derek he's wrong. A coach would ask him, what did the analyst learn from watching you fix it? Versus what would have happened if you just stopped and asked them 3 questions instead? A coach would help him see the actual cost. Every time he steps in, he gets a fast answer today and a more dependent analyst tomorrow. Multiply that analyst across a team over years. Now Derek has built a team that cannot function without him, which really caps his own growth, because he can't scale into bigger responsibility if every time, every problem still needs his hands on the keyboard. Now, assume you don't have a coach and you can't hire one. How can AI help you? Pick something that happened with a team member that you felt you needed help with. Open up a chat and say, I'm going to describe a work problem I solved today by giving my team the answer directly or by doing the work myself. And here's what happened. And describe that situation. Ask me 5 questions that would have helped my team arrive at that answer themselves. Then ask me one by one, why didn't I ask those questions in the moment? Now, as AI goes off and processes and asks these questions, actually answer them. Why you did not ask them? Why did you jump in? Do this once a week for a month and you'll start catching yourself doing it. Now let's talk about level 2, which is an achiever. There are 35% of leaders that are achievers. Jack Welch's GE was the gold standard for this model for decades. Clear strategy, relentless performance culture, leaders who knew to drive execution against a plan. At its peak, GE was the most valuable company on earth. But the achiever is still heroic. Welch built a better machine, but he was the engine. The organization depended on him to set direction, read the environment, make the big calls. GE fell apart because the world stopped cooperating with the plan, and the organization had no mechanism to adapt without someone at the top telling them how to. I watched this from a distance. A technology director named Colin. Colin hired a very strong team, and whenever a challenging issue came up, he and his team jumped right up and started helping those teams that were struggling around the company. And they would do it very visibly and very publicly. The self-promotion really worked. Both Colin and his team grew fast within the bank because of it. Here's the tell. Ask yourself, when your team solves something hard, is your first thought, do we make sure the right people know we solved this? That's how a lot of ambitious, competent leaders operate. This is genuinely effective for huge career growth. Right up until the organization needs this capability to spread instead of another hero act. The achiever model is brilliant until the environment changes faster than you can update your strategy, which in today's environment is basically always. Now imagine that Colin had a coach. A coach would ask, a year from now, is the team that you helped still calling you every time the problem comes up? Or can they handle it without you? This question forces Colin to measure something new. Not did we get credit, but did we leave the capability behind? A coach would push him to try something that feels like giving away credit, teaching the struggling team to fix it themselves, even if it's slower. Without a coach, here's the AI version. Pick a real situation this week where your team solved a hard problem and you made sure people noticed. Then say, here's a situation where my team solved a hard problem for another part of the organization. And here's how we made sure leadership knew. And then describe the situation in detail. Now, ask AI to first tell you honestly whether the other team walked away more capable or more dependent. Second, was my primary goal building their capability or building my reputation? Do not soften this. Ask AI to be brutal. The answer might sting a little. If it stings, that means it's working. Now stay tuned until the end of this video so I can share with you a survey where you can self-identify yourself answering 10 questions. That survey will be available free. The link is available in the description below. If you answer those 10 questions, it's going to respond back with what you can do next and a working AI prompt that you can start using at your level. Level number 3 is a catalyst. 10% of leaders in the world are catalysts. When Satya Nadella took over Microsoft in 2014, the company was in a slow bleed, losing mobile to Apple, losing search to Google, losing cloud to Amazon. He could have walked in with a bold 10-year plan. Instead, he did something that almost looked too simple. He changed what it meant for each employee to work there. He killed the stack ranking system that had turned employees into competitors. He rewired the culture around learning over knowing, what he called the growth mindset. He pushed decision-making down into the organization instead of waiting for clearance from the top. The results were stunning. The organization got genuinely good at figuring things out on its own. Market cap went from $300 billion to $3 trillion. That's the difference of a catalyst. Building something that runs on its own capability with or without you at the front. I have seen this myself. Guru was an executive director of technology, previously a program manager. He was picked to run cloud adoption across the entire bank. Every geography, every product team, all needing to move to the AWS system. Guru could have built an elite team of cloud experts to personally solve every migration. Instead, he leveraged AWS consultants and local technology teams. In each geography, directly, he rallied local teams to take ownership of their own migrations. He used Kotter's 8-step change model to structure the transformation. Urgency, coalition, vision, removing obstacles, short-term wins, anchoring the change locally. Cloud adoption became a massive success at a scale no single hero team could ever have delivered. Nadella and Guru Both stopped believing their job was to have the answer. They started believing that their job was to build a structure and enough momentum that would let other people find their own answers. 10% of leaders reach this level. Now imagine Guru had a coach. A coach wouldn't need to teach him ownership. He already understood it. But a coach would push him towards something more subtle. Is he still the single point of failure? Even maybe at a backup or a higher level. A coach would help him map which geographies had genuinely internalized ownership versus which were just complying because he personally showed up, and redirected the energy accordingly. Now, if you don't have a leadership coach and cannot hire one, then I would recommend using AI as a thought partner. Tell AI, I'm leading an initiative that requires several teams outside my direct control to succeed. My instinct, and describe what you naturally feel like doing. Now, instead of what I want to do, give me 4 ways I could structure this so the teams feel genuinely motivated and own their own outcome, even if it's slower than handling it myself. Try one approach, then go back and ask, where did I genuinely hand over ownership? And where did I say I was handing it over, but quietly step back in? And the answer from AI would help you backslide mid-project. Now, there's also level 4 and 5, which are co-creator and synergist, respectively. Joyner's research also describes these 2 levels beyond Catalyst, where leaders build shared ownership across the entire organization or shared ownership across systems, not just their own team or their own sphere of influence. They're rare enough that most of us wouldn't be able to reach them. And honestly, chasing them directly is not the point. Catalyst is the real target for anyone watching this video. When things get hard, real pressure, real stakes, real timeline, which level do you actually lead from? Under stress, almost everyone slides back. The achiever starts micromanaging. The catalyst starts controlling. And the people around you who are watching you more carefully than you think learn very quickly which version of you shows up when it really matters. Most leaders see themselves as further along than they actually are. The expert feels competence. The achiever feels like leadership. The jump to catalyst requires a completely different way of thinking. One that most leadership development programs in your organization rarely touch. Pick one prompt from this video, run it tonight on something that actually happened, not a hypothetical. Comment which level you really landed on. If you're serious about making this shift, I run a certified agile leadership workshop, Cal 1. The certification is through Scrum Alliance, built for leaders who want to move beyond the heroic model with live coaching in the room. Links in the description below. And finally, before you go, I also put together a free 2-minute assessment, 10 questions. It tells you which of these levels you're actually operating from right now, not where you think you are. And when you answer these questions, it's going to give you coaching help along with an AI prompt that is guaranteed to help you succeed and also see your blind spots the way a coach would point them out. It's the fastest way to know if you're an expert, achiever, or already operating at the catalyst level. Links in the description below. Comment on your result. I want to know if expert questions hit as hard for other people as it hit for me.